I was in a courtroom today, and this has nothing to do about legal issues or court or anything like that. This is about the idea of like algorithms in relation to sentient thought, sentient beings, in relation to judicial systems and law. And this dress, because I love this dress. I got this dress at like a Sally Ann or something. This is like one of, I don't know, this is one of my favorite items of clothing I own. I absolutely love it. So this is like take 20. I thought it was interesting at one point to learn that like doctors will use algorithms to determine what medication should be given. And I was shocked by that. I was like, really? Because like artificial intelligence is only as good as we make it, and algorithms are only as good as we make them. But what's the potential there for things to go wrong? Pretty vast, in my opinion. You know, and at the same time too, I'm not like a technophobe. I'm not somebody who thinks that like technology is, if you look at YouTube, YouTube is both a source of information. You know, some people may look at me and say, you are not the authority, and they're probably right on that. But then at the same time too, I'm also influencing something just by making a vlog. You know, and should that not be allowed to occur? I think it should be, but you know, there's a human decision process going on there, versus, you know, disinformation. There's also a lot of disinformation that you can find on YouTube as well, and the wealth of information, disinformation, formation, deformation, you know, just grows and grows and grows and grows exponentially. And with algorithms, you know, it's like we are all kind of subject and ruled by algorithms. So, like you could look at like the Ten Commandments as being a form of algorithm for Christians. You could look at the Quran as being an algorithm for Islamists. You can look at like the 5 precepts as being an algorithm for Buddhist lay practitioners, or Buddhists in general, I would say. You know, and like, and so like with AI, you know, what I was struck by, and I'm not talking anything about court cases or anything. I'm not drawing on any specific information, but is this decision-making process, right? Because with artificial intelligence is only as good as we make it, but you know, it can move much faster in terms of like collecting information, but it's probably no good at reflecting upon that information at this point in time. And yet with law is law, right? Law is law until we decide what law is, right? You know, and that is because we create the world around us. What happens if AI starts creating the world around us? I don't know. It's kind of interesting, you know. Like, for example, we create AI. There's just so many, like, and one fascinating thing I was struck by is this issue of like how we look at people from on a screen as being in a position of authority. I'm not saying that some are and some aren't. I'm just saying that we look at it as being as a position of authority much greater than in person. So, for example, we will watch, you know, the Prime Minister, you know, give a speech, you know, from a position of authority, and we have a certain reverence for that partly because we're viewing it within a square or triangle. You know, it used to be more so a square, and now that is like more of a triangle. What happens if one day it's a circle? Doesn't make any difference. It seems kind of irrelevant, but I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Because we do different things like with shapes and colors and whatnot that are very, very relevant to us. For example, you know, you cannot mimic the colors of a police car, right? You cannot mimic the logo of police and just apply it to your car and act as if you were a person who is in a position of authority. You know, is a person who used to appear on a square now in less of a position of authority than a person who appears in a triangle, or not a triangle, but a rectangle. You know, and you know, you can get even further into concepts of like, how do you know it's real? Right? People believe in Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, all these different people, you know, but we weren't there, and all we have to go on is oral or written records, which is fallible. You know, so these kind of like algorithms, institutions that we aim to like fix and make permanent, as if like etched in stone, like this is God's word, changes. It's completely malleable. You know, even if the words are not changeable, you know, even if the words never change, people's perceptions of that are, again, incredibly malleable. You know, it gets, and these are all like algorithms. You know, so if you have an algorithm, and the thing that struck me about this was that there was no algorithm involved. You know, there is, you know, in a courtroom where the judge is the one who is making all of the final decisions based upon what the judge knows. An AI can recall that quicker, right? So does an AI know better? Right? Well, an AI might have a certain interpretation of law that a judge might have a completely different interpretation of. And either can be more relevant or archaic, right? For example, and it's just a matter of, I mean, majority rules a lot of the time, right? So like, you get a lot of these like hardcore zealots of any sort or another who is an influencer on YouTube, right? And they can go back and draw upon something archaic of the last century, right? And make it part and parcel of today's social consciousness. You know, you're looking at like something like the consciousness of an individual in a courtroom, of a judge making decision-making processes, and the consciousness, like the legit consciousness of you know, if you incorporated artificial intelligence, you know, that is a legit consciousness of sorts. It is a legit intellect, right? Which is, again, completely malleable, just as a human intellect. And so it gets interesting in that way. Now, a lot of people think that they practice the exact same religion today that was prescribed by their prophet, their Buddha, their messenger of whatever, you know, like from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and they firmly adhere and uphold that, you know. Whereas, but and the idea that this is never changing. This is changing, right? This is changing. This is changing moment by moment, second by second. You know, social consciousness on a whole, if you want to talk about consciousness, collectively, you know, is something that is like changing like surf on an ocean, right? It's like how the surf on the crest of a wave is in a continual change and flux and never the same one moment to the next. But artificial intelligence can be fixed unless somebody else can attack that, you know, and so like it makes a lot of sense to not involve artificial intelligence in such a situation. Yet we have no issue involving artificial intelligence into all kinds of other situations. You know, I don't know that it's arbitrary. You know, but what happens if you can, you know, but like with artificial intelligence today is very much in its genesis. You know, artificial intelligence can do something like make a painting, but it comes out completely askew. What happens when it's no longer askew? What happens when we have programmed it and then we want to maintain it as just, c'est ça kind of thing? You know, like how, I think that, you know, because it's based upon binary, is not